Hey everybody, Dr. Rob Silverman here. I'm with my Erchonia team. I'm with my Erchonia family, if you will. I've got Steve Shanks, the reason that Erchonia's got all these great FDA clearances. And with the handsome guy in the right upper corner, my friend David Tusak, he's going to explain all about what's new in laser. We are responding to all your post-podcast questions. Steve and Travis were on before. You guys had a lot of questions. So let's go. Guys, how you doing today?
Doing good.
Good. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. And just got a little shout out from somebody. So at the bottom, you can see we got Vanessa Brown from across the pond saying hi. So guys, anybody listening, whether it's across the pond or in the continent over here, if you have a question, these guys are going to answer all the questions. I'm here to answer any questions. Steve, I really want to ask you, I want to jump right in. What are the clinical benefits of the violet and the red laser together? Everybody knows that the EVRL is the standard bearer for handheld lasers. We've got an FDA clearance. I was fortunate enough to be a clinical advisor on that. And everybody's like, why do we want to use this? And in what instances would you?
Well, our FDA clearances for the red violet laser are number one for onychomycosis. So we use red violet laser. So we're trying to create two photochemical effects to basically eliminate the fungus. For obviously, like you helped us with, the chronic neck and shoulder pain, which was a follow-up to our red study that we did in 2002 that got FDA cleared. So we use different wavelengths to create different photochemical effects. We don't use infrared wavelengths because they don't create photochemical effects. So currently we're running a low back study. There's a lot of theories on low back pain, what causes a lot of chronic low back pain. One of the things that there might be bacterial infections. So we're doing a study here with a local MD, and we're looking at C-reactive protein. They used to think that you couldn't reduce inflammation of blood, and we're seeing big reductions. So depending on the research that we've proven in the past, the mechanisms that we've proven in the past, is the wavelengths we're going to use. So a lot of our research is switching over from the red to the red violet on lots of different indications.
That's great takeaway. You got a lot to unpack in there. Number one, you were talking about lower back and bacteria. So as a chiropractor, the data indicates now 50% of people that have a disc injury, and most people have a disc injury, may have bacteria in there. And that bacteria obviously is adverse, harmful type of bacteria. The violet light is critical because it's been shown in multiple studies to help kill any kind of pathogens. Bacteria or harmful bacteria is a pathogen. So as a chiropractor, to be able to get that intrinsic view and getting inside the body with the laser without touching anybody is exciting. Now, C-reactive protein you mentioned is a tissue inflammatory marker. So when you can bring that down, it's not just an area, it's the whole body. And, the wavelengths, that 405, again, we're looking at photon absorption to mitochondrial activation, increased ATP production. So we're making a stable, healthy cell. That said, David, can you explain some of the new features and the differences of the Erchonia EVRL compared to the older one? I love the new one.
Looks like you might have lost Dave because you lost me.
There we go.
There
Back in.
You were just staring at me, and I was like, "Yeah, I got my hair knit and everything like that." Did you get the question, or should I repeat it for you?
Rob, it looks like I'm the only one that's on now.
No, we're good. I'm good. Dave, are you good?
Oh, yep, I can hear you now.
We're all here now. Yep.
Okay, so Dave, go ahead.
I lost you for about a minute and a half. Sorry, Rob.
It's all good. Technology always poses an issue. Can you explain some of the new features and the differences of the new Erchonia EVRL compared to the older one? I love the new one.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I actually have an accelerator here. We're completely sold out of the EVRLs right now. We just started a big sale on them. But the biggest difference is for people who own our previous generation, EVRL or Accelerate, you can see it's much thinner. We have these non-slip grips on the side here. The software is probably the biggest difference. The software is absolutely fantastic. We can now store 100 different protocols. So your preset protocols that you store are all alphabeticalized. You can go through it, set them up how you like. It's completely self-sufficient and stored inside of there. Another thing that people really like is something we brought back from, probably 10, 12 years ago with our old style base station is our new linear, nonlinear functionality. So a lot of people really like that with our old style base station. We removed it from our previous generation lasers, but we're now brought it back with the new style lasers where you can add linear or nonlinear to your specific protocols. So it's something that's a really hot item right now. People are absolutely loving it, but probably one of the biggest differences. And then we have our 90-degree head here, and we've also redesigned our laser stand to hold these devices. So several differences in the new device, a longer battery life, and all around it's just a fantastic handheld system.
Outstanding. So we know that there's a frequency, and we'll delve into that. So I'm going to give you 4 frequencies that we use very commonly: 4, 9, 33, 60. So how many diodes, and where do the frequencies come out in those diodes physically, actually?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 2 different laser diodes, and I'll actually start a protocol up here so you can see them. We have 2 different laser diodes that run, and these laser diodes will run 2 frequencies 2 seconds apart. So on this side here, when we type in frequencies into our laser diode, for instance, 4 and 9, it's going to run that 4 frequency for 2 seconds. Then it's going to alternate and run the 9 frequency for 2 seconds. On the other side, we have 4, 9, 33, and 60. So 33, it's going to run a frequency of 33 for 2 seconds, and then 60 for 2 seconds. So that's where the frequencies are input, and how it works on the actual lasers. It's just alternating between the 2.
And linear. And we'll make a point since we're on it. Linear means it goes from 33 to 60, 33, 34, 35 every 2 seconds, and comes back to 33. It doesn't go back down. Some people have asked me, does it go, when it hits 60, does it go 59, 58? It restarts, correct?
It restarts back to 33 and then counts all the way back up to 60. And like you said, it'll just keep resetting with the linear function.
And the nonlinear is sort of a randomized lotto between 33 and 60. That's great. 2 diodes, 4 frequencies. And just from a clinician's perspective, the ability to change the frequency is great because you're hitting the body in a slightly different manner. And we all know as docs that if we do the same thing all the time at the same tension, the body gets a little resistant to it. So this shocks it. And, there's 3 of us. We're all not going to respond to the same 4, 9, 33, 60. It's a starting point in the proverbial protocol recipe, if you will. Steve, since we're talking about 405, what research has Erchonia done with the 405 wavelength?
We've done research on acne, toenail fungus, chronic neck and shoulder pain, low back pain. And we're implementing that now in tinnitus and erectile dysfunction. So we're in the early stages of those specific indications.
So you're doing a lot of different studies on the 405. So the 405 stimulates more the sympathetic nervous system. Would that be correct?
It does. So you can see if you're treating with the red and the violet, you're treating the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system at the same time. So there's great advantages to that.
Right. And great advantage is the balance of the autonomic nervous system. I mean,
absolutely.
Everybody knows that I use the violet and the red. You can't, for me, in my opinion, you're not going to get the kind of vagus nerve stimulation. And we'll go into that as we build up this ladder. And the vagus, every day there's another study on vagus nerve, which is a parasympathetic nervous system. But again, the 405 works in a shorter period of time. It's really good for immune function. I'll expand upon that. I won't put you on the spot on that. But what I also like about the violet light is it's sort of the uncloaking of a condition. You can use it in a diagnostic sense. So, David, I want to need to piggyback up a little bit. A lot of people ask about these lasers. They want to know if they can take them home, how to get them. You guys have devised a great rental program so patients can actually take the laser home. Do you want to describe it for the patient and also for the doctor, how they can work this out?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, it was something that some of our physicians out in the field already currently using our laser systems. They started doing when COVID really hit in March of 2020. They started doing it because they couldn't get patients into the office. They were looking for revenue streams outside of physically having patients come in. So they were taking the Erchonia laser systems and they were renting them out to their patients. So they pre-program them with a specific protocol, let's say, for neck and shoulder pain, pre-program it, and then they would send it home with their patients. We have, really nice carry cases, wireless charging bases, so they can take everything home. And what they do, and this is what I've seen nationally on average, if you're in a more affluent area, obviously the price goes up, but people are doing either $300 per week or $800 for a month. That's kind of what I've seen as a national average. So, it would break it down to $200 per week if they're doing it on a monthly basis, or $300 per week if they're just doing it week by week. It's a great way to make extra revenue. We also have our base station laser, which comes with 3 separate Erchonia lasers. So a lot of people, instead of just getting one device for their office, they're opting to get the base station so they can use one in their office and rent the other 2 lasers out. So it's a really cool program, a great way to make some extra revenue, and patients absolutely love it because they get to take it home, use it on themselves as much as they'd like.
Yeah, I can tell you that many of my patients do that, and I can speak to a lot of doctors around the country. It's been a blessing because, again, somebody may be an hour and a half away from you and it's hard to make. So they come in once a week, let's say, but you give them the laser rental so they continue with it. It's truly been a blessing. It's worked out really well for me. Steve, I got a couple of questions they text in. Question number 1 to you is, this one's a tough one. Get ready. What's Erchonia mean?
If you look at the word Erchonia, it's Greek for light. So Kevin kind of came up with this. He just pulled out the N and pulled out the M and put in N. So Erchonia basically means light. Interesting.
And the other question is, now you guys have been in business 25 years. It's a lengthy question. I'm going to extemporize. How did you guys come about determining this? Because, I'm going to add to it. You have 20 out of 23 of the FDA clearances. So it wasn't luck. It wasn't that you threw something in and it stuck to the wall, in the dark. How'd you guys come up with this? People want to know.
Well, back about 1995, my dad, who's also Dave's dad's, me and Kevin kind of started the business. My dad was going in a doctor's office, and this guy had these helium neon lasers, and he didn't do any research. Kevin started building him little handheld lasers, and then we sold our first one in 1996. So about 1998, we got our first warning letter from the FDA, which turned us into a research and development company. Most people don't like to say that, but the greatest thing that ever happened to us was the FDA. They came in and, we had to put some science behind it. So, we never want the FDA to walk in and take our toys away anymore. So this is one of the reasons why we do so much research.
Yeah, I mean, they always say any kind of news is good news sometimes. And
you learn from it.
You were so robust on the Violet Light, Steve, that, you did it in a handheld and it's exploded. You've added it to the 405. So now you have one that has 4 diodes. So can you explain the reasoning why you did that and how that may differ? And then I'm going to follow up with a question, why the doctors love it so much with Dave. So why did you add that extra diode in the 405 with the Violet?
Are you talking about the red and the violet?
Yeah. So it's FX 405. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So what we're looking to do is create two different photochemical effects. So that's the reasons why we're using 2 different wavelengths. One of the reasons, like when you were talking about the low back study, I read that same study where they started treating chronic low back pain. They would go in and do biopsies and see that there's a bacterial infection and start treating them with antibiotics. Well, that's the dumbest thing that you could ever do because you're wiping out your immune system. So we figured, all right, what if we go in there and start treating the low back, like the spinous process with red violet laser? We can start knocking out, the bacterial infection. We already proved that we could knock out acne back in 2005, and in 2014 we could knock out fungus. So we thought bacteria was easy. So we just think it's a better, more efficacious way, and it's kind of an upgrade of the 635. So one thing a little bit different than us, you'll notice we don't use infrared wavelengths. They don't have much energy. Most, research that you read say you need longer wavelengths to penetrate deeper. That's garbage. That doesn't even take into photochemistry, where our wavelengths seem to keep getting shorter. We seem to be getting better results.
So you mentioned antibiotics. I got to jump on that because I'm all about the gut. So antibiotics are a nuclear weapon to your inhabitants in your gut, both good and bad bacteria. So much so, the new data says that if you take an antibiotic, it can give you leaky gut, and a leaky gut now takes everybody 9 to 15 months to heal. So obviously, we want to avoid that. Anybody's interested, I wrote an article for chiropractic economics via Erchonia, what I did in my office, photobiomics. So if anybody wants that, we can place it, or somebody from Erchonia can get you. So put your email in the comment section and we'll get that. And I'm going to come back to you because you said LED and infrared, but I want Dave now to really piggyback and explain why the doctors are loving the 405, FX 405 laser.
Yeah, well, I'll say the FX series in general, whether it's the FX 635 or the FX 405, the biggest difference, and we've had so many people that have been using our handheld lasers for 10, 15 years, and then they decide to get into the FX 405 or the FX 635. The biggest thing they like about it is the presence it brings to the office, and I've heard this dozens of times at multiple trade shows and seminars. Having that device sitting in your office, when you have patients walk by because you're cracking them or whatever you may be doing, other modalities in the office, when they walk by and see that large FX 405 or FX 635 system, it's always the question, what is that? What does that do? So it brings a presence into your office that the handheld lasers don't. And since we have a little bit more power output, which obviously we're not saying better results, but it does lead to a little bit quicker treatment time. So people like that side of it. And then probably the biggest thing, completely hands-free. You set the lasers up, as you know, Rob, you have them in your office. You set them up, you press start, it automatically rotates. It's completely automated and completely hands-free. So probably the biggest difference with the FX 635 and 405 versus the handhelds. And then the 405 for all the reasons Steve mentioned. Right now, anecdotally, coming from our physicians out there, they absolutely love the difference that they're seeing with the 405, even versus the 635. And then obviously the research that we have to back it up for the specific indications that we have.
And Rob, also, the nice thing about the 405 and the 635 is you're treated in 3 different areas at one time. Mm-hmm. So you're saving a lot of time. Plus, you're getting a synergistic feeling. So if you're treating low back pain and the hip flexors, you're treating 2 different areas. You're affecting, different nerves, and you're kind of opening up that pathway. And it just seems to be more efficacious.
Mm-hmm. Without question, I want to highlight what Dave said about the aesthetics of it. Just to start with that, it looks real. It's big, it's very Gothic looking. And what you said is very true. You've got the 3 heads, maybe we get a picture of it. We can put a picture on so they can see what it looks like. But what I say is you can set it and forget it. You can point and shoot. But as a chiropractor, it's great because I can go in the other room if I desire. But it's also synergistic with every chiropractic type of technique that I do, whether it's adjustment, myofascial release, acupuncture or dry needling, exercise rehab, taping, decompression. So again, it's a standalone, but it's also synergistic with all the things that you do, because a lot of chiro will say, oh, well, it's going to take more time. No, it doesn't. It actually increases the healing time. And we all know the way to get more patients and to help more people is to have people talk. Grassroots still works. Social media is great. We're on it. We're using it. No doubt about it. But grassroots still really work. And some of the benefits of laser in general are it's great. It helps with blood, epithelium, joint, muscle, bone, neuron, and connective tissue. And we were just having this conversation before that the laser, we know, helps the body communicate, and the body is an interconnected system organism. And it's all about getting the systems to work in homeostasis. Now, that said, somebody already says, hey, David, I want one. How can I get one? So they're inquiring about, I think you guys are running a sale, and people want to know how they can get more information on the laser, etc.
Yeah, actually, right now, we just started it yesterday. We've been doing it the past 2 or 3 years, every February, from February 15th till the end of the month. We run our Violet laser sale. So our handheld EVRL, our base station, and our FX405, all of our devices that incorporate that Violet 405 nanometer wavelength, we're running absolutely fantastic specials on, the best of the year. So if anybody's interested, you can email us at info@erchonia.com, or you can call us toll free at 888-242-0571. We'd be more than happy to get you information on that.
Fabulous. So somebody just wrote in from a pain management perspective. They wanted some dynamics on the difference between the FX635 and the FX405.
Well, for the handhelds, so
sure.
Okay, so for the handhelds, we did an exact same protocol with the 635 and the 405. We looked at pain reduction. So you're going to get about 15% better pain reduction with the FX405, along with more increased range of motion. Also in those clinical trials, when we do clinical trials, we look at success criteria, or how many people met the minimum threshold of success, which for us is a minimum of about a 30% pain reduction. We're seeing about a 65%. About 80% of those people after one treatment will notice an immediate pain reduction compared to the red. The red works great. It's just for some reason the violet, because of the extra energy, works better.
So when you say extra energy, we've had this conversation before. We would call it photochemical low-level laser, but the real breakthrough theme that you shared with me is electromagnetic transfer of energy, sort of like photosynthesis occurring in the plants occurs with us.
Correct.
So
go ahead.
I got a question. The boss asked a question. What do the lasers do?
What do the lasers do? Well, that's going to depend on the wavelength. So for instance, if you're going to use infrared lasers, they vibrate the cell. They do not create photochemistry. So you think like out in nature, the infrared lasers create heating and they warm plants. Violet lasers, so for instance, if you want mitochondria function, you're going to want 405 nanometers. If you're going to stimulate stem cells, you're going to use 532 nanometers. If you're going to want to boost the immune system, you're going to use red lasers. If you want it with violet lasers, you're going to have more energy. You're going to create some antibacterial, antimicrobial effects. So that's why we use different wavelengths.
So 635 will boost the immune system, but the 405 also is good for antimicrobial pathogen and stuff, in theory.
Yeah, well, a lot of this is in theory. So, if, for instance, at the University of Illinois, we did a study on animals, rats, where we're looking at 3 different wavelengths compared to placebo, and say we want to look at interleukin 10. Which wavelength is going to work the best for interleukin 10? That would be red. Now, if we want to knock down inflammation, like interleukin 6 or 8, that's going to be violet. So, depending on what condition we're looking at, is going to be what wavelength we're going to use.
These interleukins that Steve is mentioning are inflammatory markers that are extremely deleterious to people's overall health. So using laser for the last 12 years in my office, I will say without concern that they're able to ameliorate a myriad of different symptomologies without question and certain conditions from my perspective. So Dave, I'm going to do a little selfless plug here. I'll be in Phoenix on March 19th and 20th. It's a live stream. This is the new thing that Erchonia is bringing so they can touch everybody nationally, internationally. Could you give them a little feedback and some information on this, if you would?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is something, as Dr. Rob had mentioned, we just started doing, probably mid last year. And the feedback we've received from our physicians that attend these events has been absolutely amazing. So we've actually hired on a double award-winning videographer that films these events live as the presenter. In this case, Dr. Rob is going to be teaching in Phoenix, Arizona. So this one's a 12-hour event. And if any of you viewing this have ever been to an Erchonia seminar, you know that we host top-notch seminars. This you can do now from the comfort of your home or office as if you were there live. So we have a live seminar going on in Phoenix with live attendees in the room. And Dr. Rob will obviously do his lecture, but the cool thing too is our videographer, when Dr. Rob's going to do hands-on, so he can teach you some really cool hands-on protocols with the actual laser devices. They're going to get in, do, picture-in-picture, zoom in on the actual protocols. You guys can join in at home, on your family members using your Erchonia laser. So it's a really, really awesome event. If you can't attend one of our live events throughout the year, these have been fantastic. People are raving about the live stream events, and we've got approval in 42 states around the United States for CE hours, 10 Canadian provinces, and we have people worldwide that log in and watch them now.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm very excited about it. So it's this hybrid model that works well. I encourage everybody in the area to come. You'll get hands-on. I'll be in there early. I'm going to work through lunch. I'm going to stay late on Sunday. For those in the live stream, like you said, I'm really going to share 35 new musculoskeletal type protocols. So never seen before. This is a brand new seminar that gives advanced protocols. However, if you've never been to a laser seminar, still something that you want to see, because I'm going to take you through how a laser works. Musculoskeletal, the gut to brain axis, concussions. I'm going to give nutritional protocols for concussions. I'm going to show you my famous vagus nerve upregulation, 6 new steps. And in addition to that, I want everybody to feel engaged. I'm going to be answering questions at every hour break. So those, if they're in a classroom, let's go, get up. You're going to be my patient, if you will, and those who are home from the confines of their gym, their couch, their bedroom, their living room, I will answer all your questions. Nothing will go unanswered. I give you my word. So lastly, gentlemen, because I know you're really busy, I've got something that somebody just sent in. They said the downstream cellular effects of low-level laser signaling includes cell proliferation, migration and adhesion molecules. Cell survival is increased, cell death reduced by the expression of proteins and inhibit apoptosis. So in a nutshell, what does the laser do at the cell level?
Well, one of the best things it does is increases mitochondria function. So, for instance, if you're talking about apoptosis, you're talking about a cell that's getting ready to die. We can give it mitochondria production to save that cell, to stop it from dying. So, say if you're doing a wound healing, you have a wound healing problem. Theoretically, you should be able to heal that wound faster because those cells don't have to migrate, fill in, and then we stopped a lot of those cells from dying. We've done that with 3 different wavelengths at 2 different universities.
Now, David, training. If somebody wants a laser and they're a doc, where can they get some training? Not just seminars, but do you train somebody on how to use it, to program it, press the power button, stuff like that?
Yeah, we actually just released a new training video that we have professionally done that we can send to anybody. It's an 18-minute video, walks through all the basics. But also, anytime anyone purchases an Erchonia laser, their Erchonia representative will do a full training. They'll schedule a Zoom meeting like we're doing now, or a conference call, and go through all of the basics to get you up and running. And then with the Erchonia purchase, it does include 1 free Erchonia seminar. So if you go to one of our live seminars, you go to erchonia.com/events. It has all of our live events, but it also includes the live stream events. Because if we're not regionally in your area, you can host, log on to Dr. Rob's coming up in March. And as Dr. Rob was saying, attend from the comfort of your home or office.
Absolutely. We've got Simon on from across the pond. And in Simon's honor, if you guys, I have a webinar with you guys tomorrow, the live stream. Everybody will see my new move. It's called, as Simon says, it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to show you in a simplistic way how to approach low-level laser therapy. I got to tell you, you always know when people are enjoying the podcast live, because I'm able to see the numbers, and the longer you guys are talking, the more people are coming on. They're just a little shy with the questions, but shout out to Simon. So lastly, Steve, if I may, where do you think low-level laser therapy is going to go in the next 5 to 10 years with Acodian's guidance?
We've always felt anything you could do with a drug, you can get better results with a laser. We just need to prove it. Most people don't know it usually takes us 1 to 5 years to get one new indication from the FDA. So currently we've got about 8 different projects going on right now. Anything from peripheral neuropathy to diabetic patients. We're looking at tinnitus. We're doing a lot of low back studies, more toenail fungus studies, a lot of neuromuscular studies. So, if you want to see what we're doing, you can go to clinicaltrials.gov and type in Erchonia, where we have to list everything, which is all of our new projects, a lot of our pilot studies, but a lot of our full-blown clinical trials.
And Dave, I know you mentioned it before, but some people just jumped on. How can they get in touch with you if they want some more information or to speak to you personally?
Yeah, absolutely. So
go ahead.
You can, you can email us at info@erchonia.com or call us toll free at 888-242-0571. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Great. And if anybody's interested in an article, we'll post that up. And if they call you, they'll get the article. And guys, I really appreciate all your time. It's been a plethora of things I've learned today, key points. The whole thing is blowing up on the side. Everybody said, great job. They're interested. There's one more question. Sorry about that. Are lasers, basically they're asking, is it just chiropractors that can have lasers, or who can, as a practitioner, who can get a laser, who can purchase a laser, who can utilize it?
So for this one, anybody who is a medical professional, our lasers are by prescription only. We do have our Zerona, which is a non-invasive fat loss laser, where we have an over-the-counter clearance by the FDA, so anybody can purchase and use that device. But all of our handheld lasers, our FX635, FX405, are by prescription only, so it does have to be a medical professional. So chiropractors, medical doctors, DOs, can certainly purchase and use these devices.
You said body contour and the thing just went crazy again. So I think we'll have to have you guys come back on and talk about the body contour, because now it's 6 weeks after the new year. We know most people who made the New Year's resolutions, unfortunately, have gone back to their old ways and they're looking for a little help. So we'll do that. Sorry, guys. I know you're in a rush. Brittany says, is there ever an instance when you don't want to use the violet beam on the FX405?
In my opinion, absolutely not. There is no known side effects with low-level laser therapy. I do have a document from the FDA where they consider these non-significant risk devices. There are no known side effects, like I said, you're going to see more and more with the 405s with us in all of our research. More and more indications.
Hear, hear. That was a great question, Brittany. We really appreciate it. Gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for your time. Now we know we got to do Zerona. Well, everybody, Erchonia.com. Steve Shanks, David Tusak, thank you again. I'm Dr. Rob Silverman, always yours in health.
Thanks, Dr. Rob.
Stephen.